And as we mentioned earlier, we lost the Louis Smolka and Sean O'Malley fight. But what's really interesting about this one is let's find the best things to talk about, right? First of all, the Almeida fight and Sean O'Malley. The things that I loved about that fight was O'Malley's patience and his movement as usual, right? He picks his shots so well. He even in the third round before he finished the fight, he did not look tired, very poised. Even when he ends up on his back, the few times that happens almost every fight, he seems to always get back to where he needs to be. I love the switching in his footwork, great, powerful right hand. We saw it against Eddie Wineland, but what's really great is I love the southpaw stance because way he throws his left, it's just such a good punch to set everything up. And you look at the kicks that he's able to throw, it's just such good work. I especially like the strikes that he can throw on his back foot. It's really good for the fighters that keep pushing forward. It's just he's such a hard guy to figure out because of the movement and creativity that he brings to his striking game, and he's just so long for the division, right? And, in losing Smolka, we had our friend Kris Moutinho, who's actually made quite a name for himself over a 15-year career in MMA, regional scene, things like that. He actually fought for the CES Bantamweight title before losing it to Tony Gravely. So he's been in some pretty big fights on that regional scene. And the one thing that I do like about him is he's just pure grit. Pushes forward like crazy. He's got big combos that he likes to throw, finishes it with knees up against the fence if he can. Now, the thing that we don't like is, let's be real. If the movement's great, the hands are down far too much for him going into this fight, right? I don't think there's a fight where you want to be able to keep your hands up, stay back, pick your shots in. And the big part with him is he's going to have to try and get in closer with that 4-inch disadvantage, both height and reach. But it's just, is there a guy that is so dangerous when it comes to just trying to gauge that length? Because in the time that he's trying to figure out his distance, Sean's going to be coming in with so many different kicks and strikes that are set up so well and have such underrated power behind them that it's going to be hard for him to figure this puzzle out in such short little time. And the real tough factor for me is just when you look at the fights, it's like, I don't know if there's a type of fighter you just should never get into a brawl with. And I just can see him being that kind of guy that's going to be swinging for the fences and get clipped pretty badly. You go back to the Thomas Almeida fight. For me, there was two situations there where it could have ended first round. Tried to walk away. That's cool. Kept going. But in that third round, when he does it again for the walk-up, I'm sorry to say, but that fight should have been ended. And this is actually a point that I want to make in general. In those situations where a guy is just getting beat up so badly, and there's actually an opportunity with like less than 3 minutes left in a fight for him to finish, even if that fighter is able to come back, but he's done for and he's not going to get a finish or not going to get a point, battle one, it makes sense for me for that fight to end. Now, I know that's like eliminating the opportunity of something very shocking to happen in the final 2 minutes, but I truly believe that if I can look at a fight for the first 2.5 rounds and say, I don't see any likelihood or any certain probability that man is going to be able to find a finish, for me, I think that's clean cut. If we're trying to protect fighters' lives in this new era of MMA and the UFC, that's a clean cut example of where a powerful, accurate striker who has such a good right hand, just because they wanted the fight to keep going because he was still alive, just absolutely throws a massive shot to the ground that probably puts Almeida in a much worse place than he was in anyways. And I don't think he was moving from that first punch at all. So little things like that, are going to start to come up. We have the judging issues. We have how the fight should end. All those little things. I think over the next 5 years, 10 years, we're going to see MMA change in a big way because a lot of these things just can't just take after other sports. It really does need to start evolving in the right ways, especially as all these athletes become very different in terms of just, overall skill and athleticism. It's becoming a very deadly sport if it wasn't already. Now, like I said with Kris, the guy just quit a paint job trying to come into the UFC to take on one of the biggest names in the sport and fastest rising stars. Obviously, we know where this line is going to sit. If it's not a -400 or -500 even, I'd be a little surprised. Even when you look at the tape for Kris, there is skill there. There is determination. There is heart. It's just, unfortunately, the record speaks for itself. When you're the brawler style with really good, mix and matchy type of MMA skill, you're going against a potential title challenger now. And this guy, just the way Sean picks his shots and the way he just flows and moves in a fight, it's just, I think this is, a fish out of water in some ways, but a fight's a fight. And if he's able to land big, I'm sure he's going to be able to do some damage of his own. But again, it's just not as much technique and a lot of brawling, which I think just is not the fight you should be doing that for. So without further ado, let's take a look at where Vegas believes Mr. Sean O'Malley should sit as a big time favorite. And wow. Okay. I guess, we understand. Opens at a minus 700 favorite for Sean. And, betonline.ag, where all the fighters are promoting their shit, minus 1,000. So I would recommend staying away from that. If a fighter is going on their social media and being, here are my picks, I picked Sean O'Malley. Well, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to have to spend $1,000 to win 100. So I'm probably going to take a back seat to that unless I'm rolling in the dough of multi-millions. So I think that's a fun fight for Sean fans. I just hope that Kris puts on a great show for him, his family, his friends, his training partner, his training camp, coaches, all of that fun stuff. A fight's a fight, and the fighters are why we love this stuff. And I think that that's where, all the best to Kris, big opportunity of a lifetime. And I really hope that quitting that job, pays dividends for him and what should be hopefully a long UFC career.